Hi, good morning, and welcome back to Discover History here at the Keys History and Discovery Center in Isla Mirada. We're on the grounds of the Islander Resort. If you haven't visited us yet, you should make it a point. We've got some great exhibits and great things to share and to further your understanding of this wonderful place that we get to call home. I'm Brad Bertelli, the curator here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Jewfish Creek Bridge. And if you have questions, Erin is manning the social media device, and she'll let me know if you have a question. If not, I'll get back to you sometime later this afternoon. So, Jewfish Creek Bridge, everyone who's come to the Keys has driven over it at some point. It is the main artery way into the Keys, the first of the main bridges, and it's the one we drive on today is the third version. There were several other versions that were much different. Originally, it started out as a swing bridge during the Henry Flagler's days, when it was built around 1906, 1907. By the time it was completed, and it was a low-profile swing bridge and manned by a bridge tender. So if a boat wanted to come by and pass through the pass, whereas was not arched over like later bridges, so if a boat wanted to pass through, the bridge tender had to get out there with a hand crank and crank until the bridge would slowly open up and then allow for passage, and then you'd have to go back out there with his crank and then crank it back closed again. Eventually that became automated, and so a little less physical labor, but still you would imagine hours and hours of boredom, and punctuated by short spans of intense activity, sweat and mosquitoes. So that bridge operated was the main portal to the Keys, and when it came time for the third version of the Overseas Highway, when the 18-mile stretch became incorporated into the entrance into the highway, it opened back up to automobile traffic in 1944, and it was replaced by a drawbridge, which was much lower than the one we drive over today. And that drawbridge would allow for most boats that were coming through, they didn't have to worry about waiting for the bridge to open, more the low-profile boats. Although when sailboats had to come through, they would have to open up the bridge like they do at Snake Creek Bridge today, stopping traffic and starting that, and creating that big backup to allow passage for the the larger boats and the sailboats with their tall masts. And that bridge operated for several decades, and then when they redid the 18-mile stretch and they raised that bridge to its current incarnation, about I think 2011, 2012, when they opened that up, and it no longer became necessary for a drawbridge portion of it to come in because there was ample architude, which is the word I'm going to make up for today, arch for to allow for passage of boats. But I'll talk about the Jewfish portion more, because that gets interesting into the postal history of Key Largo in particular. When the Jewfish Creek Bridge opened to traffic, and remember, while the train did not reach Key West until 1912, by 1908 there was daily service from Miami all the way to Knights Key, which is at the foot of the 7-mile bridge in 1908, and the Jewfish Station was there at the bridge, and that became a postal depot, a postal drop-off. It wasn't a large train depot; it was one of the smaller ones, but it did have an area for a mail bag, and that was the primary mail area from 1909 to about 1912, I think, when it moved to the larger Key Largo depot about mile marker 105.6 and where the median is today. And eventually the postal address changed from Jewfish, Florida to Key Largo, Florida. Now, it did not remain Key Largo, Florida for a super long time. I think in 1921, it was changed to Key Largo. The postal address was changed to Key Largo. And then in 1936, it was changed again to the Rock Harbor postal address. So all of Key Largo north of Tavernier became Rock Harbor, Florida. Now, when they filmed the movie Key Largo, and they wanted, and the residents wanted, to have this postal stamp being, Key Largo instead of Rock Harbor, to match the movie, because it, gave, created international awareness of Key Largo, Florida, and people wanted to send postcards home to their friends. And when it was marked Rock Harbor, Florida, it didn't have as much impact as it did once it became postmarked Key Largo. So the community passed around a petition and had the postal address changed from Rock Harbor back to Key Largo, Florida, which it had been back in the 1920s, which I thought was kind of an interesting twist on the history there. And people don't really think about Jewfish Creek as as a little postal address, but that was the Jewfish Depot and Jewfish, and then Key Largo, and then Rock Harbor, and then Tavernier, and then Islamorada and Matacumbe, and then working your way down to Key West. I thought that was interesting. I wanted to talk about that, and before we delved into a myriad of other little historical nuggets that we'll get to as the weeks and months continue to pass. And in the meantime, tomorrow night we have rescheduled our talk with two pioneers, with Everett Alberry and Charles Louis Pellissier. And, which the event was scheduled for last Wednesday, and it was canceled due to technical difficulties. There was an issue with the web format, which has all been ironed out. So the two gentlemen are going to come back, and Aaron's going to be able to do the interview and ask them questions about their experience growing up in the Tavernier area. Both of them were around the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, and we'll have some interesting tales about going to school and what it was like to live in the area of Tavernier in the 30s and 40s and 50s. So we're excited to have that an opportunity to reprogram that. It will be recorded, so we'll have that for posterity, and which we're also very excited about, because that's one of our missions, is to get these things recorded. And that was one nice thing about this. If there's a silver lining to this COVID dilemma, pandemic that's been going on for the last since February, March, is it really helped us to push forward and to begin doing these virtual presentations and getting. We'd always talked about recording these things, but hadn't got around to it. And so now we're excited that we've been able to record and have. If you haven't gone to our YouTube channel, check it out. There are scores of lectures and talks and all of these presentations, as well as our community views, which we've been doing. And our cocktails with the Curator, which is a great way to, if you missed them live, you can really catch up and learn about some really great history here in the Florida Keys that we're doing our job and working hard to capture and to provide for our community and our visitors. And we get visitors, our virtual visitors, which is another nice benefit of going virtual, is that people in California and Washington and New York are able to tune in, and people who maybe their heart is in the Florida Keys, but their body is far away, and so we're able to connect with them, which is really nice. So tomorrow night we have the interview with the two fine gentlemen, the pioneers, and then the following Wednesday we will be doing another installment of our community views, where I'll be talking about the island of Upper Matacumbe Key, which is today the heart of Islamorada. We're going to talk about pre-1935, so it's really a lot of the major buildings and the houses and some of the resorts and some of the major businesses that were operating at that time. But it should be interesting, so we hope you tune into that. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great week, and we will see you again tomorrow night, hopefully, and then we'll see you next Tuesday here for more Discover History, and then we just have a series of events coming up that we're thrilled to be able to bring to you. So you guys have a good weekend or a good week. Thank you very much.